They unleashed their apex beast. Then the human laughed and whistled for hers. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. Across the void of space, on a dusty planet named Farron, a lone human ranger stood surrounded by towering reptilian warriors, her hand casually resting on her utility belt. The Faronians had landed on Earth 7 standard cycles ago, diplomatic overtures masking their true intent, assessment of human capabilities for potential conquest. Their initial scans had deemed humans physically inferior, technologically underdeveloped, and militarily inconsequential. The Galactic Council had granted them exploration rights to Sol System as a formality, never expecting resistance from the primitive bipeds of the third planet. Sarah Morgan had volunteered as Earth's ambassador to accompany the Faronian delegation back to their homeworld. A calculated move by Earth's Unified Defense Command, sending someone who appeared non-threatening, a slender woman with auburn hair and an easy smile, but who also happened to be one of Earth's most decorated special operations operatives. Ambassador and prisoner, though the Faronians never explicitly stated the latter. They kept her in luxurious quarters, allowed her limited movement through their capital city, and maintained the pretense of diplomatic relations while their high command finalized invasion plans. Sarah had been gathering intelligence for months, noting weaknesses in Faronian military structure, mapping their defenses, and most importantly, understanding their psychology. The reptilian species prided themselves on strength above all else. Their society, government, and military all followed the same principle. The strongest leads, the weak submit. They respected only what they feared. Today marked a turning point. The Faronian War Master, Drez Kalterin, had summoned Sarah to the Grand Arena. His patience with the diplomatic charade had worn thin, and he was ready to demonstrate Faronian superiority directly. The Grand Arena stretched nearly a kilometer across, an imposing structure of dark metal and stone. Curved viewing platforms surrounded a central fighting pit, already filled with thousands of Faronians. Their scales glittered in the harsh light of their twin suns, creating a sea of emerald, sapphire, and obsidian. War Master Kalterin, a massive specimen nearly 3 meters tall with charcoal black scales and piercing yellow eyes, awaited Sarah at the arena's center platform. 4 elite guards flanked him, their ceremonial armor adorned with trophies from conquered worlds. Ambassador Morgan, Kalterin's voice rumbled as Sarah approached. Your presence honors us. Sarah nodded respectfully, maintaining the diplomatic facade. The honor is mine, War Master. Though I confess, I'm curious about today's proceedings. Kalterin's lipless mouth curved into what passed for a smile among his kind. Today we share with you a sacred tradition, the proving. The crowd's roar grew louder as Kalterin raised his clawed hands. For 10,000 cycles, the Faronian Empire has expanded across the stars. We conquer not through deception or politics, but through strength. His gaze fixed on Sarah. When we encounter a new species, we offer them the honor of the proving. Their strongest against ours. Sarah's expression remained neutral, though her mind raced through possible scenarios. Earth's intelligence on Faronian biology had been comprehensive, but there were still unknowns. And if I decline this honor, she asked, knowing the answer, then we would understand humans lack the courage to defend their world, Kalterin replied, and would proceed accordingly. Translation: immediate invasion. Sarah nodded slowly. Very well. I accept on behalf of Earth. Surprise rippled through the Faronian officials present. They had expected refusal, pleas for diplomatic solutions, perhaps even fear. Not calm acceptance. Excellent, Kalterin said, his voice carrying across the arena. You may select one champion from your world to face our apex. Sarah smiled. I am Earth's champion. A moment of silence followed, then eruption of laughter from the Faronian guards. Even Kalterin's composure broke as he joined in their amusement. Ambassador Morgan, he said once the laughter subsided. Perhaps there is a translation error. The proving is combat to submission or death. Your species would send a female diplomat. Sarah maintained her smile. No error, War Master. I am Earth's champion. Calterin studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Very well. The human accepts the proving, he announced to the crowd, which responded with thunderous approval. 2 guards led Sarah to a preparation chamber beneath the arena, where she was provided with lightweight armor similar to what Feronian youth wore during training exercises. Clearly, they didn't expect her to survive long enough to need proper protection. As she fastened the alien armor over her standard-issue jumpsuit, Sarah activated the subdermal communicator implanted behind her ear. Command, this is Morgan. Situation has escalated to Scenario 7. Request clearance for Protocol Echo. General Ethan Cole's voice responded almost immediately. Clearance granted, Commander. The Artemis is in position, cloaked in low orbit. Extraction team on standby. Are you certain about this approach? Affirmative, sir. These people respect only strength. If we want peace instead of war, we need to speak their language. Understood. Good hunting, Commander. The communicator went silent as a Feronian guard entered. It is time, human. Sarah followed him through a series of corridors that led to a large metal gate. Beyond it, she could hear the crowd's excitement growing. What exactly am I facing? She asked the guard. He looked down at her, amusement in his reptilian eyes. The Razor Claw, our apex predator, bred for arena combat for 300 generations. His expression grew serious. It is a quick death, at least. Be grateful for that honor. The gate began to rise, and Sarah stepped into the harsh light of the arena. The fighting pit was larger than she'd estimated, nearly 200 meters across, with walls 10 meters high. The ground was covered with reddish sand, and scattered stone outcroppings provided minimal cover. On the opposite side, another gate was opening. The crowd fell into reverent silence. From the darkness emerged a creature that seemed designed by evolution for the sole purpose of killing. 6 muscular limbs supported a body covered in armored plates. Its elongated head housed multiple rows of serrated teeth, visible as it opened its jaws and released a roar that Sarah felt in her bones. A whip-like tail ended in a bony club that could easily shatter stone, as it demonstrated by smashing one of the outcroppings. The razor claw was massive, easily 5 meters long and weighing what Sarah estimated to be at least 2 tons. Its hide was primarily obsidian black with streaks of crimson along its spine. For eyes, glowing amber in the sunlight, locked onto Sarah with predatory focus. From the central platform, Calterin's voice boomed across the arena. The proving begins. May strength prevail. The crowd erupted in cheers as the razor claw charged. Despite its size, the creature moved with shocking speed, covering half the distance to Sarah in seconds. Sarah didn't run. Instead, she stood her ground, watching the beast approach. The crowd's excitement turned to confusion at her apparent acceptance of death. When the razor claw was 20 meters away, Sarah smiled, put 2 fingers to her lips, and whistled, a piercing sound that cut through the arena's noise. Nothing happened for 3 heartbeats. The razor claw continued its charge. Then the sky darkened. Something massive passed over the open roof of the arena, casting a shadow larger than the fighting pit itself. The crowd fell silent as all eyes turned upward. Descending from above came Earth's answer to the razor claw, a massive creature with leathery wings spanning 30 meters. Its serpentine body was covered in metallic blue-gray scales that shimmered in the sunlight. A long neck ended in a wedge-shaped head with intelligent eyes that glowed with an inner fire. Smoke curled from its nostrils as it released a roar that dwarfed the razor claws. The dragon, for there was no other word for it, landed beside Sarah with ground-shaking force, folding its wings and lowering its head protectively near her. Sarah reached up and stroked its neck affectionately. "Good girl, Artemis," she said loud enough for the stunned Feronians to hear. The razor claw had skidded to a halt, its predatory instincts recognizing a superior threat. It backed away, hissing defensively. "War Master Calterin," Sarah called out, her voice amplified by the arena's acoustics. "Allow me to introduce Earth's apex companion species. We call them dragons." Calterin stood frozen, his elite guards having backed away instinctively. The crowd remained silent, thousands of Pharaonians witnessing something their conquest-driven society had never experienced, the shock of being utterly outmatched. "This is impossible," Calterin finally spoke. "Your world showed no signs of such creatures." Sarah smiled. "We keep them in nature preserves, away from our cities. They're endangered, you see. Very rare and protected by international law." She stroked Artemis's scales again. "This one has been my companion since she hatched. 15 years together." The Razorclaw, having recovered from its initial shock, let out a challenging roar and began stalking toward them again, though more cautiously. Artemis responded by inhaling deeply, her chest expanding, the temperature around her rising noticeably. When she exhaled, it wasn't simply fire. It was a concentrated stream of blue-white plasma that struck the ground in front of the Razorclaw, instantly turning the sand to glass and forcing the beast to retreat with a shriek of fear. "Plasma breath," Sarah explained casually. "Evolved to melt mountain stone for nesting. Reaches temperatures of over 4,000 degrees Celsius." The Pharaonian crowd remained silent, but Sarah could read their body language. The shock was wearing off, replaced by something new: respect. "The proving has rules, human," Calterin said, finding his voice again. "Your champion must face ours alone." Sarah nodded. "Of course." She turned to Artemis and whispered something. The dragon gave her a look that seemed almost disapproving, then spread its massive wings and launched into the sky, circling the arena high above. "There," Sarah said, facing the Razorclaw alone. "Just me now." The Razorclaw, emboldened by the dragon's departure, charged again. This time, Sarah moved, but not away from the beast, toward it. As the Razorclaw lunged with its massive jaws, Sarah dropped and slid beneath it, drawing a slender object from her utility belt. With practiced precision, she jabbed the object into the creature's softer underbelly. The Razorclaw roared in pain and confusion, turning to snap at her, but Sarah had already rolled clear. The beast staggered, its movements becoming uncoordinated. Within seconds, it collapsed to the sand, its breathing heavy but stable. Sarah stood and held up the now empty injector for all to see. "Tranquilizer. Harmless, but effective. Your apex predator will wake in about an hour with nothing worse than a headache." She turned to face Calterin directly. "This is how humans hunt, War Master. We could have killed your Razorclaw, but there's no honor in needless death. On Earth, we respect life, even the lives of those who might threaten us." Calterin descended from his platform and approached Sarah, his guards moving to intercept him. He waved them away and continued until he stood before her, towering over her human frame. "In 10,000 cycles," he said slowly, "no species has ever subdued a Razorclaw without killing it, and none has ever brought a superior predator to the proving." He studied her with new intensity. "You could have had your dragon kill my warriors. Kill me. Why didn't you?" "Because Earth doesn't want war, War Master. We want alliance. Partnership. We have much to offer each other, if you're willing to see us as equals rather than conquests." Calterin was silent for a long moment, then barked an order to his guards. One approached, carrying an ornate box. Calterin opened it and removed a medallion on a heavy chain, a symbol Sarah recognized from her intelligence briefings as the mark of respect, given only to those the War Master deemed worthy adversaries. "Ambassador Morgan," Calterin said formally, placing the medallion around her neck, "your species has earned the right to negotiate as equals. The invasion plans are suspended." The crowd, taking their cue from their leader, erupted in approving roars. Above, Artemis circled lower, responding to Sarah's whistle. As the dragon landed beside her, Sarah allowed herself a genuine smile. Phase 1 of humanity's introduction to galactic society had been completed successfully, but this was just the beginning. The real negotiations would start now. Artemis lowered her massive head, and Sarah climbed onto her neck with practiced ease. "Shall we discuss our future alliance in more comfortable surroundings, War Master?" she asked, extending her hand down to Calterin. The Feronian War Master looked at the offered hand, then at the unconscious Razor Claw, and finally at the crowd of his people, all watching to see how their leader would respond to this unprecedented situation. With a decision that would change the course of two civilizations, Calterin reached up and grasped Sarah's hand. As Artemis launched into the sky with both human and Feronian on her back, the crowd's roar reached deafening levels. Today would be remembered in Feronian history not as a conquest, but as first contact. And in the orbital station above, General Cole received Sarah's simple message: Phase 1 complete. Tell Earth to prepare for visitors. Friendly ones. The connection between Earth and Farron was just the first step. With the Feronians as allies rather than enemies, humanity's introduction to the wider galactic community would come from a position of strength rather than vulnerability. The sleeping giant of Sol had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the proving, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Earth Embassy on Farron. Below, the capital city sprawled in all directions, its architecture a stark contrast of angular Feronian traditional structures and the curved, flowing designs introduced by human architects. The blending of styles mirrored the unexpected alliance that had formed between the two species. War Master Calterin, now bearing the additional title of Alliance Commander, joined her at the viewport. Your dragon handlers arrive tomorrow, he said without preamble. My military advisors are nervous. Sarah smiled. They have nothing to fear as long as they follow the handler's instructions. Dragons are intelligent and generally peaceful unless provoked. Generally peaceful, Calterin repeated, a hint of amusement in his voice. Like humans. Exactly like humans, Sarah agreed. Which is why this alliance works. The unspoken truth hung between them. Had the Feronians proceeded with their invasion plans, they would have discovered too late that humans, like their dragon companions, were far more dangerous than they appeared. Earth's apparent technological disadvantage had been carefully constructed misdirection. The dragons were just one of many surprises humanity had prepared for potential hostile contact. Calterin turned from the viewport to face Sarah directly. The Galactic Council has accepted our joint petition. Earth will be granted full membership status, with Farron as sponsor. Sarah nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. That's excellent news. When is the formal induction? 3 standard cycles from today. Ambassadors from 57 worlds will attend. Calterin's expression grew serious. Including representatives from the Nexus Dominion. Sarah's smile faded slightly. The Nexus Dominion, the most expansionist empire in the known galaxy, and the primary reason Earth had been preparing its defenses for decades. If the Feronians had been a storm cloud on the horizon, the Dominion was a hurricane gathering strength. Well, she said after a moment, it seems our timing was fortuitous. Calterin made the clicking sound that served as Feronian laughter. Indeed, though I suspect your people's fortuitous timing involved detailed intelligence on galactic politics that you shouldn't have had access to. Sarah simply smiled in response. As the twin suns of Farron began to set, casting long shadows across the city, both human and Feronian contemplated the changing landscape of galactic power. The proving had been just the beginning. The real test for both their species lay ahead. But for now, they had alliance. They had strength. And somewhere in the mountain ranges of Farron's southern continent, a new generation of dragons was being introduced to their new world, a symbol of the unexpected friendship between two species who had come to the brink of war and found partnership instead. The stars above held infinite possibilities, and for the first time in either species' history, they would face those possibilities together. The formal induction ceremony was held in the Grand Conclave, the largest structure in the Feronian capital. Originally designed as a war hall where conquered species would pledge fealty, today it served a different purpose. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered to witness Earth's entrance into the Galactic Council, not as a subjugated world, but as a full member with all associated rights and protections. Sarah stood on the central platform alongside General Cole, who had arrived with Earth's delegation 2 days prior. They were joined by a team of human diplomats, scientists, and military officers, Earth's first official representatives to galactic society. Nervous? Cole asked quietly as they watched the various alien dignitaries filter into the massive hall. Sarah gave a slight shake of her head. Just alert. The Dominion representatives arrived this morning. Intelligence reports they're not pleased with our alliance with Farron. They wouldn't be, Cole replied. We've upset their timetable. According to our sources, they had plans to move against Farron within the next 5 years. With us in the picture, those plans need revision. The Nexus Dominion occupied nearly a third of the known galaxy, an empire built through a combination of military conquest, economic coercion, and political manipulation. Their representatives were easy to spot, tall, slender humanoids with metallic skin that shifted colors according to their emotional state. Currently, the 5 Dominion delegates on the far side of the hall displayed patterns of deep crimson and amber, colors that human intelligence had identified as indicating anger and calculation. They're watching us, Sarah noted. Let them watch, Cole said. Today is about showing strength through alliance, not provoking confrontation. The ceremony began with War Master Calterin addressing the assembled representatives. His voice, powerful even by Faronian standards, filled the hall without amplification. For 10,000 cycles, the Faronian Empire has stood as a beacon of strength in this galaxy. He began, using traditional opening phrases that Sarah now recognized from countless diplomatic functions. Today, we sponsor Earth, home of humans, for full membership in the Galactic Council. Murmurs spread through the crowd. While news of Earth's existence had circulated through galactic diplomatic channels, few had believed the reports of dragons or of the unusual alliance between humans and Faronians, species that, on the surface, appeared to have little in common. Earth has demonstrated not only technological achievement and cultural sophistication, Calterin continued, but something far more valuable, honor and strength, and wisdom and power. The Faronian leader turned to Sarah and General Cole, indicating they should step forward. In accordance with Council tradition, Earth's representatives will now demonstrate a cultural or technological achievement unique to their world. This was the moment they had prepared for. Each new species joining the Council was expected to share something distinctive about their civilization, a tradition dating back to the Council's formation thousands of years ago. General Cole stepped aside, giving Sarah the floor. They had decided she would lead this portion, given her now legendary status among the Faronians following the proving. Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Council, Sarah began, her voice clear and confident. Earth brings many gifts to share with our new galactic neighbors, advances in medicine, art, philosophy, and technology. But today we wish to share something more fundamental to understanding humanity. She gestured, and from a side entrance, a human handler led in what appeared to be a large canine, a wolf-shepherd hybrid with intelligent eyes and powerful build. Murmurs of confusion spread through the alien delegates. After the stories of dragons, this creature seemed underwhelming. This is Max, Sarah explained, kneeling beside the animal, which sat attentively at her signal. He represents one of Earth's most important evolutionary relationships, our partnership with canines. Sarah proceeded to demonstrate a series of complex commands that Max followed with precision, from basic obedience to advanced problem-solving tasks. The assembled aliens watched with increasing interest as the bond between human and animal became evident. For over 15,000 years, humans and canines have evolved together, Sarah explained. Not through genetic engineering or forced domestication, but through mutual benefit and cooperation. What began as a partnership for survival became something more, friendship across species barriers. She turned to address the hall directly. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our physical capabilities. It's our capacity to form bonds, with each other, with other species, and now, we hope, with the diverse civilizations represented here today. As if on cue, a distinctive sound came from outside, a dragon's roar that resonated through the hall structure. Artemis was circling above the conclave, her presence a reminder of Earth's more formidable companions. From wolves to dragons, Earth's history is defined by cooperation rather than domination, Sarah continued. We believe this philosophy will serve us well as members of the galactic community. The ceremony proceeded with formal declarations and the signing of membership treaties. Throughout, Sarah noticed the Dominion representatives growing increasingly agitated, their skin cycling through darker shades of crimson and black. As the formalities concluded and the gathering transitioned to a more casual diplomatic reception, Sarah found herself approached by the lead Dominion representative. Up close, his metallic skin displayed intricate patterns that seemed almost hypnotic, shifting between crimson and gold. "Ambassador Morgan," he said, his voice carrying a melodic quality that translation devices couldn't fully capture. "I am Supreme Envoy Telsic of the Nexus Dominion. Your presentation was interesting." Sarah inclined her head respectfully. "Thank you, Supreme Envoy. I'm pleased it held your attention." "Indeed." Telsic's eyes, solid black orbs without visible pupils, studied her intently. "Though I must confess some disappointment. After hearing tales of plasma-breathing dragons, a simple canine seems an underwhelming choice for your cultural demonstration." "The point wasn't to impress with power, but to illustrate a principle," Sarah replied. "Earth values partnerships based on mutual respect, not dominance through superior force." Telsic's skin rippled with patterns that the human intelligence briefings hadn't documented. A charming philosophy, though perhaps impractical in a galaxy where strength often determines survival. "On the contrary," Sarah countered smoothly, "it's precisely why humans have survived and thrived. We recognize that true strength comes from cooperation. It's why we've allied with Farron rather than competing with them." The Dominion envoy's expression remained unreadable, but his skin darkened perceptibly. "A temporary arrangement, no doubt. History suggests such cross-species alliances rarely endure." "Perhaps you've been studying the wrong history," Sarah suggested. She gestured toward Max, who remained vigilantly at her side. 15,000 years of partnership suggests otherwise." Before Telsic could respond, a commotion erupted near the hall's main entrance. Security personnel, both Feronian and human, moved swiftly toward the disturbance. General Cole appeared at Sarah's side. "We have a situation," he said quietly. "A Dominion stealth ship breached Farron's orbital security grid 10 minutes ago. They deployed something to the surface near the Southern Dragon Preserve." Sarah's expression hardened as she turned back to Telsic. "Is this your doing, Supreme Envoy?" The Dominion representative's skin now displayed rapid patterns of gold and white, what human intelligence had identified as indicators of satisfaction and anticipation. "The Dominion merely wishes to properly assess Earth's capabilities," Telsic said smoothly. "Your dragons are impressive, certainly, but how would they fare against Dominion apex predators? We've brought a small demonstration." A distant explosion rocked the building, followed by alert sirens throughout the capital. "What have you done?" Sarah demanded, all diplomacy gone from her voice. Telsic's skin settled into a steady gold pattern. "We've released several void stalkers in your dragon preserve. Fascinating creatures, evolved in the quantum flux regions of Dominion space. They feed on energy signatures similar to your dragon's plasma generation organs." The envoy leaned closer. "Consider it a test, Ambassador. If your dragons truly are as formidable as claimed, they should have no difficulty with mere animals, yes?" War Master Calterin stormed over, his usually controlled demeanor replaced by barely contained fury. "This is a direct violation of diplomatic protocol and Feronian sovereignty," he growled at Telsic. "Your demonstration will be considered an act of war." Telsic appeared unmoved. "The Dominion apologizes for any misunderstanding. We merely wish to facilitate a cultural exchange of apex predators, given humanity's interest in such creatures." His skin rippled with subtle patterns that suggested amusement. No permanent harm was intended. Sarah exchanged glances with Cole and Calterin. The situation was rapidly deteriorating, exactly as the Dominion likely intended. If the dragons were harmed, the fragile Earth-Farron alliance would be tested before it had properly begun. If humans and Faronians responded with military force against Dominion representatives, it would provide justification for more direct Dominion intervention. "General," Sarah said calmly, "please coordinate with Faronian defense forces to establish a perimeter around the preserve. No one in or out without direct authorization." Cole nodded and moved away, already activating his communication device. "War Master," Sarah continued, "I request permission to handle this situation personally." Calterin studied her for a moment, then gave a curt nod. "Granted. What do you require?" "A fast transport to the preserve," Sarah replied, "and for you to keep our guests entertained in my absence." She glanced meaningfully at Telsic. "With pleasure," Calterin rumbled, fixing the Dominion envoy with a predatory stare. As Sarah moved toward the exit, Telsic called after her. "Ambassador, you might reconsider personal intervention. Voidstalkers are specifically bred for combat. They've been known to decimate entire ecosystems when deployed as biological weapons." Sarah paused, turning back with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Thank you for your concern, Supreme Envoy. But I think you'll find Earth's approach to apex predators differs significantly from the Dominion's." She whistled sharply, and Max trotted to her side. Together, they left the Grand Conclave at a brisk pace. 20 minutes later, Sarah's transport, a Faronian military shuttle modified for atmospheric speed, touched down at the edge of the southern preserve. The area had been established just months earlier as a controlled habitat for the dragons brought from Earth, a wild region of mountains and forests similar to their original territories. Earth's dragon handlers, specialized rangers trained to work with the powerful creatures, had established a research station near the preserve's northern boundary. It was here that Sarah had instructed the pilot to land. As she disembarked with Max at her heel, the station's lead ranger jogged over to meet her. Tyler Grant was a veteran dragon handler with 15 years of experience working with the creatures in Earth's most remote preserves. "Commander Morgan," he greeted her tensely, "we've got multiple hostile contacts in Sectors 3 and 5. For confirmed void stalkers, though they're unlike anything in our xenobiology database." "Casualties?" Sarah asked, following him toward the station's operations center. "2 handlers with minor injuries during evacuation. All personnel accounted for." Tyler's expression darkened. "Can't say the same for the dragons. We've lost contact with 3 juveniles in Sector 5. Inside the operations center, wall-mounted screens displayed thermal and motion tracking data across the preserve. Red indicators marked the positions of the void stalkers, while blue markers showed known dragon locations. "Where's Artemis?" Sarah asked, scanning the displays. "Last tracked heading into Sector 4, Tyler replied, pointing to a rapidly moving blue marker. She broke formation as soon as the stalkers were detected. Headed straight for them. Sarah nodded. She would. Protective instincts, especially toward the juveniles. "These stalkers," Tyler said, pulling up enhanced imagery on a central screen. "They're like nothing we've encountered. Some kind of energy-absorbing capability. The first dragon that engaged with plasma breath had its energy completely absorbed. The stalker then discharged it back with increased intensity." The screen showed grainy footage of a sleek, shadowy creature with multiple limbs and what appeared to be crystalline structures protruding from its spine. As they watched, it absorbed a dragon's plasma blast, the crystals glowing momentarily before releasing the energy back in a devastating counterattack. "Conventional weapons?" Sarah asked. "Limited effectiveness. Their hide seems to adapt to energy signatures after first exposure. Projectiles work initially, then less effectively with each subsequent hit." Sarah studied the tactical display for several moments. "Their hunting patterns," she observed. "Driving the dragons toward the central valley. Classic pack predator tactics." Tyler nodded grimly. "If they corral the dragons there, they'll have nowhere to escape the energy feedback attacks." Sarah turned to one of the equipment lockers along the wall, entering her authorization code. Inside was specialized gear, not standard issue for dragon handlers, but rather equipment designed for more direct intervention. I need a dragon scent marker, long-range tranquilizers, and a tactical comms unit, she told Tyler, who moved to assist her. And I need you to prepare the sonic disruptors, full spectrum, maximum amplitude. Tyler paused. Those are still experimental. We've never tested them in field conditions. No time like the present, Sarah replied, checking the tranquilizer rifle she'd removed from the locker. Have them ready, but don't deploy until my signal. I need to get closer first, assess the situation directly. You're going in alone? Tyler asked incredulously. Sarah glanced down at Max, who sat alertly at her feet. Not alone. Outside, she applied the scent marker, a chemical compound that dragons recognized as identifying friendly humans, and activated her tactical heads-up display. Small holographic projections appeared in her field of vision, showing thermal signatures and movement patterns throughout the nearby sectors of the preserve. Max, she said softly, kneeling beside the canine. Find Artemis. The dog's ears perked forward, and he raised his nose to the wind. After a moment, he turned and began trotting purposefully toward the forested slopes to the east. Sarah followed, maintaining a steady pace that balanced speed with stealth. They moved through the alien forest for nearly 2 kilometers before Max froze, his posture alert but not alarmed. Sarah knelt beside him, scanning the area ahead with her tactical display. Through a break in the trees, she spotted Artemis perched on a rocky outcropping. The dragon was watching something below, one of the void stalkers moving through a clearing. Unlike the younger dragons who had engaged directly, Artemis was observing, studying her opponent's movements and capabilities. Sarah smiled slightly. This was why Artemis had been chosen as her companion. The dragon possessed not just power but intelligence and patience rare even among her kind. Keeping low, Sarah moved forward until she was within communication range of Artemis. Dragons couldn't understand human language directly, but they recognized specific tonal patterns and whistles after training. Sarah emitted a low, specific whistle that meant aware of your position, hold. Artemis's head turned slightly, acknowledging Sarah's presence without taking her eyes off the stalker below. Through her tactical display, Sarah could now clearly see what they were facing. The void stalker resembled a cross between a panther and an insect, with 6 limbs and a segmented body covered in dark, almost light-absorbing material. The crystalline structures along its spine glowed with faint internal energy, and its movements had an unnatural fluidity, as though it wasn't fully bound by normal physics. As she watched, a second stalker emerged from the trees to join the first. They communicated through series of clicking sounds and pheromone releases that Sarah's sensors detected but couldn't interpret. She activated her communications link to the research station. Grant, I have visual on 2 stalkers. Position Alpha 73. Artemis is engaging in reconnaissance. No sign of the juveniles. Received, Tyler's voice came back. Thermal scans show 3 juvenile dragons approximately 800 meters northeast of your position. They appear to be cornered by the other 2 stalkers. Status of sonic disruptors? Ready on your mark. Range is limited to approximately 500 meters from deployment point. Sarah considered the tactical situation. The stalkers were clearly intelligent pack hunters, using coordinated attacks to isolate and eliminate threats. Direct confrontation would be dangerous, especially given their energy absorption capabilities. New plan, she said into her comm, deploy the sonics to my position, but keep them inactive. I'll use them as a fallback if needed. Primary approach will be division and isolation. Understood. Deployment drone launching now. Sarah turned her attention back to Artemis, using a series of whistles to communicate her intent. The dragon's response was subtle, a slight shift in posture, a focused attention that indicated understanding. Next, Sarah prepared Max. From her pack, she removed a small device and attached it to the dog's collar. Sonic emitter, she explained to the canine as if he could understand every word. Not harmful to you or the dragons, but should confuse the stalker's sensory systems temporarily. Max remained steady as she made the adjustment, then looked up at her expectantly. Ready? She asked. Both her companions, one the product of 15,000 years of partnership with humans, the other representing a more recent, but equally profound bond, waited for her signal. Sarah took a deep breath and activated the plan with a sharp whistle command. Max darted forward through the underbrush, moving with practiced stealth until he reached a position approximately 50 meters from the stalkers. Then, following his training, he let out a series of sharp barks, a distraction technique used in Earth's preserves when handlers needed to redirect predator attention. The effect was immediate. Both stalkers whirled toward the sound, their crystalline spines flaring with energy. One began moving toward Max's position while the other maintained its stance, head swiveling to scan for additional threats. The moment the stalkers split their attention, Sarah activated the sonic emitter on Max's collar. The device released frequencies specifically calibrated to disrupt the sensory systems of non-Earth predators, based on data gathered from hundreds of alien species. The effect on the stalkers was dramatic. The creatures emitted high-pitched shrieks, their movements becoming erratic as their primary sensory organs were overwhelmed. The one advancing toward Max staggered, crashing into underbrush as it lost coordination. This was Artemis's cue. The dragon launched from her perch, but instead of attacking with plasma breath, which the stalkers could absorb and redirect, she used pure physical force. Tons of muscle and bone slammed into the disoriented stalker, driving it to the ground. Before it could recover, Artemis used her massive talons to grip the creature and launch back into the air. The second stalker recovered more quickly than anticipated. It oriented toward Artemis and began to generate an energy discharge from its crystalline structures, preparing to attack the dragon even without having absorbed energy first. Sarah had planned for this contingency. She raised the tranquilizer rifle and fired in one smooth motion. The specialized dart struck the stalker's flank, delivering a powerful neurological suppressant designed specifically for non-terrestrial biology. The creature staggered but didn't fall. These stalkers were hardier than expected. Sarah fired a second dart, then a third in rapid succession. The stalker's movement slowed, but it still managed to discharge a blast of energy toward Artemis. The energy bolt missed its target as Artemis executed a rolling maneuver in flight, still clutching the first stalker in her talons. With a powerful wing beat, she gained altitude and then released her captive, dropping the stalker from a height of nearly 100 meters directly onto its companion below. The impact was devastating. Both creatures collided with bone-crushing force, the crystalline structures on their spines shattering on impact. Energy discharged wildly from the broken crystals, creating a cascade of destructive feedback that consumed both stalkers in a flash of blinding light. When Sarah's vision cleared, only smoking remains were visible where the creatures had been. Two down, she murmured into her calm, moving to assist the juveniles. Have medical teams standing by. Received, Tyler responded. Be advised, our sensors indicate the remaining stalkers have altered their tactics. They're no longer attempting to corral the dragons. They're in full predator mode. Sarah whistled for Max, who returned to her side immediately. Artemis circled once overhead, then flew in the direction of the trapped juvenile dragons. As Sarah moved through the forest toward the northeast sector, her tactical display updated with new information. The juvenile dragons had managed to take refuge in a narrow canyon, a defensible position, but also a potential trap if the stalkers controlled both access points. She increased her pace, Max keeping perfect formation beside her. They crossed a ridge and gained visual contact with the canyon below. What she saw confirmed her concerns. Two stalkers positioned at the canyon's entrance, occasionally firing energy blasts inward when one of the juvenile dragons attempted to emerge. Artemis circled above, unable to attack directly without risking harm to the young dragons from redirected energy blasts. The situation had reached a stalemate, but one that favored the stalkers, who could simply wait until the juveniles were weakened by hunger or desperation. Sarah assessed her options. Direct engagement was risky. The tranquilizers had limited effect, and the stalkers had likely adapted to sonic disruption after their companions' encounter. Then she noticed something on her tactical display, a pattern in the stalker's energy signatures. They weren't simply absorbing and redirecting energy. They were storing it in those crystalline structures, building up reserves for larger attacks. Grant, she said into her calm, am I reading this correctly? The stalker's energy capacity is limited. Affirmative, Tyler replied after a moment. Our analysis suggests they can only store approximately 3 times the energy of a standard dragon plasma burst before requiring discharge. This was the tactical advantage they needed. Sarah quickly formulated a new plan and communicated it through a series of whistles to Artemis above. The dragon responded immediately, climbing higher into the sky until she was nearly invisible against Farron's blue-gray clouds. Then, with wings tucked close to her body, Artemis dove. The speed she achieved was tremendous, creating a sonic boom that drew the stalker's attention upward. At the last moment, Artemis pulled out of her dive directly above the canyon and released not a focused plasma burst, but a wide-dispersed cloud of superheated gas, a defensive maneuver normally used to create cover rather than as a direct attack. The stalkers, programmed to absorb energy, did exactly that. Their crystalline structures began glowing brightly as they absorbed the plasma cloud. But Artemis didn't stop. She circled and released another cloud, then another, forcing the stalkers to absorb more energy than they could safely contain. Sarah watched the tactical display as the stalkers' energy readings climbed dangerously. Now, Max, she whispered. The trained canine darted forward, the sonic emitter on his collar activated to its highest setting. The disorientation effect on the already stressed stalkers was immediate. They staggered, their control over the absorbed energy faltering. Sarah raised her tranquilizer rifle and fired at the crystalline structures directly, using specialized ammunition designed to fracture rather than penetrate. The darts struck with precision, creating small cracks in the overloaded energy storage crystals. What happened next was spectacular and devastating. The fractured crystals failed catastrophically, releasing their stored energy not outward as designed, but inward. The stalkers convulsed as their own absorbed power turned against them, their bodies unable to contain the destructive force. The resulting explosion was contained mostly within the stalkers themselves, leaving little more than scattered, inert fragments where the fearsome predators had stood moments before. Sarah whistled again, signaling all clear to both Max and Artemis. The dragon landed near the canyon entrance, positioning herself protectively as the 3 juvenile dragons cautiously emerged from their shelter. Grant, Sarah said into her calm, threat neutralized. Send medical teams for the juveniles, and inform War Master Calterin that Earth's dragons remain undefeated. Back at the Grand Conclave several hours later, Sarah entered with Artemis walking beside her, an unprecedented sight that caused immediate silence to fall over the assembled dignitaries. The dragon's massive form filled the central aisle, her scales still bearing minor scorch marks from the encounter with the stalkers. War Master Calterin stood at the center of the hall, Supreme Envoy Telsic and the other Dominion representatives beside him. General Cole and the Earth delegation waited nearby, expressions carefully neutral. Supreme Envoy, Sarah called out as she approached, her voice carrying clearly through the hushed hall. I believe this concludes your demonstration. Telsic's skin displayed rapid patterns of dark blue and black, indicators of surprise and alarm. Clearly, he had not expected her to return successful, much less with a dragon in tow. The Void Stalkers, he began, his melodic voice slightly strained. They were merely intended as a cultural exchange. Are neutralized, Sarah interrupted. All 4 of them. Your apex predators proved educational, indeed. We've learned much about Dominion bioweapons, knowledge I'm sure the Galactic Council will find interesting. Murmurs spread through the assembled representatives. The term bioweapons carried serious implications under Council law. The Dominion had carefully maintained plausible deniability about their biological warfare programs for centuries. An unfortunate misunderstanding, Telsic said smoothly, his skin gradually shifting to more diplomatic patterns of green and gold. The Dominion regrets any distress caused by our overzealous cultural exchange initiative. War Master Caltrin stepped forward. The Feronian Empire considers this matter a direct violation of our sovereignty and an act of aggression against our allies. His voice carried the formal tones of official declaration. However, in the spirit of today's celebration of Earth's Council membership, we will accept reparations rather than military response. The terms Caltrin outlined were steep: territorial concessions, technology transfers, and formal apologies. To everyone's surprise, Telsic accepted with minimal negotiation, his skin patterns indicating a mixture of calculation and resignation. As the diplomatic procedures concluded, Sarah found herself once again face-to-face with the Supreme Envoy. "A most impressive demonstration, Ambassador Morgan," Telsic said quietly. "The Dominion clearly underestimated both your dragons and your personal capabilities." "A common mistake," Sarah replied. "One I hope won't be repeated." Telsic's skin displayed a brief pattern of deep purple, a color human intelligence hadn't documented. "The Dominion adapts quickly to new information, Ambassador. Our next exchange will be better informed." "I look forward to it," Sarah said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Though perhaps next time, we could skip the apex predators and simply have dinner instead." The Dominion envoy studied her for a long moment. "You are an unusual species, humans. You speak of peace while demonstrating remarkable capacity for war. You value cooperation yet excel at competition. Contradictions within contradictions. That's humanity in a nutshell," Sarah agreed. "We contain multitudes." As Telsic and the Dominion delegation departed, General Cole joined Sarah beside Artemis. "Well played," he said quietly. "Though I suspect we've only delayed the inevitable conflict with the Dominion." "Perhaps," Sarah acknowledged. "But now we've gained time, allies, and most importantly, respect." She reached up to stroke Artemis's scales. "Sometimes, that's enough to change the course of history." The dragon rumbled contentedly, drawing amazed stares from passing aliens who had never seen such a creature up close. Max sat dutifully at Sarah's feet, seemingly unimpressed by the grandeur around him or the historic significance of the day. In the weeks that followed, news of Earth's unusual champions spread throughout the galaxy. The story grew with each retelling. How humans had formed partnerships with the most fearsome creatures in known space. How a single human with her companions had defeated the Dominion's dreaded Void Stalkers. How Earth had turned a potential conquest into a powerful alliance. 1 year after the proving, Sarah stood once again on the observation deck of Earth's embassy on Farron. This time, she wasn't alone. A delegation from 17 different council worlds had come to witness the Dragon Flight, a demonstration of Earth's dragon-human partnerships that had become a cultural sensation throughout galactic society. As dozens of dragons soared through Farron's skies, each with a human handler on its back, Sarah reflected on how far they had come. What had begun as a desperate gambit to avoid war had transformed into something neither humans nor Feronians could have predicted, a fundamental shift in how species across the galaxy viewed cooperation and coexistence. The Dominion remained a threat on the horizon, their expansionist ambitions merely redirected rather than abandoned. But Earth no longer stood alone against that threat. Through understanding, respect, and the remarkable bond between species that humans had cultivated for thousands of years, they had found their place among the stars. Below, in the embassy gardens, a new generation of Feronian youth worked alongside human dragon handlers, learning the basics of interspecies communication and care. Some would eventually become handlers themselves, the first non-humans to form the unique bond that had once been exclusively Earth's domain. As Artemis landed on the specially reinforced platform outside the observation deck, Sarah walked out to meet her companion. Together, they looked out over the changing landscape of Farron, and beyond that, to the stars where countless new partnerships awaited. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly as it should be. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.